Welcome back to Broken Electronics. I'm Lee, and it's wonderful to spend some time with you today on this very momentous day. Now, I should give that context, because YouTube videos hang around on YouTube forever. You may see this 5 years, even 10 years from the time I first release it. But, to give that context, I'm recording this the day before and intend to release it the day of a very momentous Apple event. The event at which they will be releasing the first Apple computers based on CPUs using Apple Silicon, using the ARM-based architecture. Now, to mark this, I have here for you today the first Apple ARM-based computer. Now, I'm going to share it with you today. Pretty amazing, huh? Here it is. Now, not that many people see these videos, but enough do, and I know certainly there are quite a variety of people. There are a lot of people who check in on these videos who will know exactly what this is. There are a lot of people who may be retro tech enthusiasts, but not that knowledgeable about Apple specifically, who may not, or be unsure. And there are some people who are just interested in tech, may not know that much about retro, who have absolutely no idea what this is. So I'm going to have to explain. This is the Apple eMate. The eMate was introduced in March of 1997. Intended for the education market, specifically aimed at the K through 12 market, so that younger students who may not be able to afford a laptop or may have problem with the size and weight of laptops of that time, or simply don't take care of their laptops that well. This is made very, very ruggedly and can deal with quite a bit of abuse. Now, it later became available to the wider market, and anyone who wanted one could buy one, although at first they were just for education. Now, particularly those of you who know what it is will think it's somewhat of a stretch that I'm calling it a computer. And it is a bit of a stretch, because it's not a Mac. It's actually part of the Apple Newton lineup. The Newton was the device for which the term Personal Digital Assistant, or PDA, was first coined. In fact, coined by the then CEO of Apple in 1993, when the first Newtons came out, specifically for the Newton. All right, now, this is actually a Newton MessagePad 2000. Well, that'll be in another video, certainly. A much more powerful machine, but basically more like what the Newton really was. And you couldn't really call this a computer exactly. Right. This, however, I've been reading a lot of period reviews of the eMate, and almost always they did refer to it as a computer. So I guess my little joke can play out now. And they almost always would point out that it needed to be connected to a more fully functional computer. Well, before this takes forever, and it is taking forever, let's take a closer look at it here. You've got two ports here. That's the serial port. And there's a proprietary port. Looks ever so slightly like an HDMI port, but it isn't. It's the the Newton interconnect port, which has a proprietary cable, and you could use that to connect to a computer. And yes, that's the power adapter plug. If we look over on the other side, well, actually, let's look at the back here. Because the other way that you could connect either to a computer or to another Newton is this IRDA port. It did have infrared, which at the time was a very common way of sharing files. Now, We don't use infrared now, but it was kind of like AirDrop before there was AirDrop, if you will. All right, another very important feature here, a PCMCIA slot. So you could put a PCMCIA card in there that would add additional storage, since there's not a hard drive or anything in there. There is flash memory, and the documents are stored in flash memory. So you could use that. You could put an Ethernet card in there and connect to a computer that way, although there's some configuration that needed doing. You could put a phone modem in there. Now, the machine didn't make voice calls exactly. I don't think it has a microphone, but it was capable of fax. And there is, in fact, a tiny speaker on there, and you could connect headphones via the headphone jack. All right. It would open up, and it could open to a laptop orientation in varying degrees, or it could lie down pretty much all the way flat. And one would... The stylus was very important. It was the only pointing device that you had on there, and you could use it. It had a drawing program. You could draw on it. Apple Pencil before there was an Apple Pencil. The primary input here was, in fact, the keyboard. It's a small keyboard, which takes some real getting used to type on it, but hey, it beats the on-screen keyboard. And you've got various functions that are available here. Yes, it says close. I don't read upside down all that well. Extras. By pressing that, that's where you open up the menu that will allow you to switch from one application to another. Dock, which, not an OS X dock, certainly. That referred to docking with a computer. Then send, receive. That would be primarily the IR, beaming as they referred to it. Trying to see what all this says. Oh, so, yeah, scroll, overview, scroll up, scroll down. So you could get some directional input on the screen without necessarily resorting to the stylus. You can skip over here a bit. There's light, so you can turn on the backlight. It's kind of hard to read. Power button. If I press the power button, you can see that it actually begins to come to life. I don't know. The battery has held something. I have no idea how much. Battery life was one of the main selling points of this machine. It had an advertised battery life of over 20 hours. Pretty astonishing. All right. And you may notice there's a resemblance here to the iconic clamshell iBook. And I think that's very much intentional. This predated the iBook, but I think they took some of the design elements here. Apple, when they introduced this, they actually would drop it from a height of about 3 feet, and it would survive. I do not intend to do that with this, 23-year-old device right now. It also, the keyboard was very protected, because this was intended for kids, you know, who might spill things. I think a lot of us have had the horrible experience of having spilled something onto a keyboard, laptop keyboard. Not a good thing. Crumbs that can get in there, etc. This was quite a bit more robust. All right, well, I think the next step... I should point out, the eMate had a short life. March 1997 to February 1998. Now, what happened then? Steve Jobs came back to Apple. He pushed Gil Amelio out. He was named interim CEO and then later became CEO again. One of the first things he did was to streamline the Apple product line. That probably needed doing because it was dizzying how many computers they were selling. But he never liked the Newton, and he axed it completely. That's too bad. This only has a 25 megahertz ARM processor. The MessagePad 2000 had a much more powerful 100, 125, 175. I'd have to check exactly. We can be sure that the Newton design team intended to build on this with more powerful processors, running more intriguing applications, maybe bringing it to the point of being something more like what we would call a computer today. Well, the next step, though, has got to be that we open the machine up, boot it up, and get a bit of a feel for how it worked and what it can do. So if you're interested in seeing that, please stay tuned. As I said, very awkward to record. It's hard enough dealing with this keyboard and then the stylus. By the way, there are two little holes at the top of the eMate where you can put the stylus, which is kind of nice. If you happen to be left-handed, it's ready for you, my friends. Okay, so we'll press the power button. And I should connect the adapter here, because I don't know how long that's going to work. And then turn on the light. It says your Newton device needs to be calibrated to the way you naturally hold the pen. Hold the Newton pen on the center of the X in the corner above until it darkens, and then lift off the pen. Okay, it darkened. Now repeat at the center of the X in the corner below. Okay. And the Newton appears to have learned. That was one of the big problems with the earlier Newtons. The handwriting recognition, which is supposed to be quite good on this machine, was very bad. Now we'll take a look at that as we deal with. I'm sorry, we have quite. Lighting is a bit of a problem here. Okay, that should be a little better. A little harder for me to see, a little easier for you to see. Okay, that's a warning about the power adapter, because I'm just using a generic adapter. Okay, we have quite a variety of programs. In, out, which is probably preparing to transfer files. Notes, calls, that would have to be faxes. Dock, which is, of course, docking the machine to a computer. Card would be the PC card slot. There is a calculator. Open up calculator briefly. Oh, that's right. You can't just tap on it. You have to press a little harder. And there's your calculator. You can calculate to your heart's content. Hasn't changed much. All right, we're going to go back to extras. All right, calculator, formulas, time zones. That might be interesting to look at. San Francisco. Okay, can we get some? Oops, that's Duluth. No, that's not doing it. Amarillo, Des Moines, no. Okay, Albany, Boston, Burlington, Vermont, my place of my birth. Chicoutimi, Montreal. Shoot. See if we can find that again. No, we're still back in the kind of an imprecise. Nope, we're still. Now, Albany, Buffalo, Burlington, Montreal. We'll get the time zone right. We'll say Burlington. Why not? I think I was too far up. But yeah, it's pretty small, and getting the stylus, particularly having to reach around the camera, makes it a little difficult. Okay. So that's that. I keep hoping it'll just go back to the extras menu, but you got to keep pressing the button. It does take some time. Clock. Set. Time, date. July 1996. Interesting. And I can only go a month at a time. I don't have to keep tapping. I see it'll just go now if I hold it down. I have not really done much with this machine, so we're learning together, my friends. Okay, I'm going to accept November 2004. It is set here on the 9th. Isn't that interesting? And let's see. Time. Oops. 0. .607, close enough. It's actually 6:06. Okay. I won't fight with it anymore. I can fuss with that later. Close out of that. Extras again. It does work. Styles. Prefs. Owner info. I'll deal with that another time. Names. Yeah, I think that is... the calendar, not the calendar, the address book for names, name cards. Dates, that would be the calendar function. Classroom doc, well, as I said. Okay. No, we don't want to rotate it. Well, I don't know what happens if we just go notes up here. Okay. Okay, yeah, we can type a note. Oops, sorry about that, my friends. Okay, this is a note. All right, so that's basically how your word processing works. I think there is a separate word processing program. So what happens if we go to new here? Note, checklist, outline, various kinds of notes we can have. All right. Okay, well, now, I'm going to take a deeper dive into this. This is going to end up being about a 20-minute video in and of itself. So I think, I'll spend a little more time with it, and if I discover some more interesting things that I want to share with you, we can always make another video, because that's one of the things this channel is about, is more and more and more videos. So, probably another video or so coming up here. Definitely a couple of videos on the message pads out of the Newton line that I have in my collection. So you can look forward to that coming up. And we're going to have a whole lot of other stuff as well. All coming up in the future. There goes our backlight. So I guess it's telling me it's time to stop, isn't it? Be good to other people. Other people deserve it and need it. Let's keep making this a better world. Be good to yourself so you can enjoy the better world. And since it isn't, at least not just yet, take very, very good and careful care in these most difficult times. We'll be back with you with more stuff soon. Until that time, this has been Broken Electronics.